Hi again then guys, and so we've got another special projects replica build for you today, and this time it's a slightly more obscure replica, but for a seriously cool car. Now for this replica you need the base model of the Mercedes SL600, which has the V12 engine, and it's the R129 generation, the older shape model, and the car that we're replicating is a car with a very special engine. It's called the SL73 AMG, and as the name suggests, it's a 7.3 litre V12, and it is essentially a variation of what would end up becoming the Zonda's engine. So a pretty special engine and an ultra rare version of the SL. Now obviously it's a non-premium car, so there's not a huge amount you can do to it visually, but we are going to change the paint colour, change the rims, just to make it look a little bit more true to the real car, and then of course go over to the garage for the most important thing, which is the mechanical setup, and finally take it out to a racing circuit to see how it performs. Now, as I said, there's not that much that you can do to this car visually, but thankfully the SL73 actually doesn't look a huge amount too different to the normal SL. It does have a slightly different body kit, slightly different rims, and of course you can't replicate that on the game, but still the base shape of the car is roughly the same. Now as far as the rims, we've gone for chunky 5-spoke rims like the actual car has. We've gone for inch up 2 because the actual car does have pretty big wheels, and the rims that we've gone for are these Motegi Racing Toga or Touge, I don't know how to pronounce it, don't particularly care either, but it's those rims which are actually very similar to the actual big chunky 5-spoke Merc rims. You've got colour options, but I've opted to paint them anyway. So as far as the paint options, I've gone for colours which you can get both of which from Jaguar. Now for the body, I've gone for a colour of platinum metallic. Now there's a slight issue here with finding the colour. This is the same colour that I used in another recent special project, and according to what I found, it was from Nissan, but I couldn't find it in Nissan. So if you can find it, good for you, but I wasn't able to. I could, however, find a different version of platinum metallic from the Jaguar dealership, from the Jaguar S-Type. Now of course you could go for a completely different colour, but that's the silver that I've gone for. And for the wheels, I've also gone for a silver, but a slightly darker, richer colour, because the rims on this game don't tend to have a decent colour silver unless you give them a really strong silver. So I've gone for liquid silver, which is darker than the body and has a more deep, kind of contoured look to it, which you can also get a version of from, again, the Jag dealership, from the XFR. I can't remember where, or I wasn't able to find where the actual liquid silver comes from, because the Jaguar version is liquid silver metallic. Now obviously this is also a metallic colour, but that colour is specifically called liquid silver metallic. So I'm not sure where the discrepancy is there, and obviously there is a variety of colours that you can go for. But that is it overall for the visual look of the car, relatively simple one to achieve. And as far as performance cars go, the SL73 is relatively understated anyway. So, now let's go over to the tuning garage for the mechanical setup. Now, for our mechanical setup, obviously it's a street-based tune, so we've gone for sport soft tyres. I've left the brakes stock, as I often do with these replicas, just to make it feel more authentic. You don't want the car to be too good. As far as suspension, we've lowered the ride height to 100, front and rear, because the SL73 does sit a little bit lower to the road. Springs we've increased just a little to 975 and 8. The dampers to 4. Anti-roll we've left on 3. Neutral camber and tow. We'll come back to the gearbox last, as usual. As with the brakes, and as with most of my production-based replicas, I've left the clutch and flywheel and the prop shaft standard. And for the diff, I wanted it to be kind of a playful car, to be able to get the tail out, so I've left the initial torque low, high acceleration, and a braking sensitivity of 20, so it can corner well if you need it to, but you can also get it to drift fairly easily. As far as power, the actual car has 518 horsepower, so we've given it an oil change. We've got a stage 3 engine tune, sports exhaust, and the reason why I've gone for that one is because, in my opinion at least, it sounds the best. and sounds the most appropriate to a 7.3 litre version. And then we've reduced the power down to 518 horsepower. As far as the weight, it actually weighs more than the standard model, so you need to add 21 kilos of ballast just to bring it up to the actual car's weight of over 2 tons, so it's a pretty hefty vehicle. And finally, for the gearbox, we are running the actual gear ratios because it's the exact same gear ratios as the stock gearbox, so you don't even need to change the gearbox at all. So you also get those nice smooth auto gearbox changes, which is how the real car would sound. So that's it overall for the mechanical setup. Now let's finally take it out to a circuit to see how it handles that kind of power and weight. Overall, you probably expect a car that weighs over 2 tons and putting out over 500 horsepower to be a little bit of a handful, maybe even a little bit of a pig around corners, but it actually handles itself seriously well. So overall, if you do decide to use one of your SLs, primarily the SL600, to replicate this kind of unicorn car in the SL class on Gran Turismo, then obviously I hope you find it fun, and it's definitely a lot of fun to drive. It looks great in my opinion, it certainly sounds fantastic, and it handles itself surprisingly well. So if you decide to use this replica build, obviously I hope you find it fun and potentially competitive for racing. And that's it overall for this replica build, so I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.